Welcome everyone to the SGCI webinar. Today we'll be hearing from Alan Chalker about supercomputing, seamlessly interactive computing via open on-demand everywhere. But before we get started, I'm just going to run through a quick few slides to introduce you to SGCI. We do ask that you keep your audio and video off during today's session, but you're welcome to submit questions via the Q&A chat icon that's at the bottom or top of your screen, depending on your view in Zoom. But we will look at the chat over the course of Alan's talk and then interrupt him if it makes sense to stop him in the slide. But most of the questions we'll likely keep towards the end of the presentation. Just wanted to also quickly say there are a couple of exciting opportunities coming out of the Institute right now. You can apply to be a science ambassador, which is an opportunity to receive some funding to promote your gateway, whether it's covering some costs for a virtual conference or the opportunity to cover some publishing fees for a current paper you're working on. We also have an opportunity for academic year internships right now, so check out our website for those options. And if you're new to SGCI, we do have a couple of areas in which we do provide support. The Science Gateways Community Institute is focused on education and training, networking and community, and support for building and running science gateways. And this can be broken down in a couple of different dynamic opportunities, such as this webinar series and the upcoming annual conference, Gateways 2020, which I hope you all are planning on attending. And a quick favor before we get started, we will be popping a quick survey into the chat about midway through the presentation. We ask that you take 30 seconds to provide us with some feedback and also some suggestions on maybe future webinars you'd like to see. But with that, I will stop sharing my screen and hand it over to Alan.
Great, thanks, Claire. And let me share my screen and get all my different windows arranged here so that I can see what's happening. Okay, we're seeing that okay, I assume. Welcome. Thank you all for attending this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the overall Open On-Demand project and then flip over, do a live demo. Of course, everyone knows the danger of doing live demos, and hopefully it'll work okay. And then obviously field any questions that anybody might have. So high level, what is Open On-Demand? Well, Open On-Demand is an open source platform that we've been developing for about a decade that provides easy to install, easy to use, basically web front end for any supercomputer or HPC cluster. And as a result of that, you get everything that you can imagine that you'd want to do with an HPC cluster in terms of you get shell access, you get file management, you get interactive desktops and apps, you name it, you pretty much can do it. Want to real quick talk about the impact that we've had here at OSC of Open On-Demand. So on the right-hand side, you can see that we've been running Open On-Demand in a production service at OSC for almost 4 years at this point. And the number of clients that come in on a monthly basis to use Open On-Demand versus, say, traditional SSH or other access mechanisms has steadily grown to the point where almost everybody now comes in and uses on-demand as opposed to traditional mechanisms. Back in 2017, we were applying for a follow-on NSF grant. I should mention we've had 2 NSF grants. We're in our second one right now. We've got about another 3.5 years on that grant to help develop and improve on Open On-Demand. But we did an analysis, and we basically demonstrated that as a result of Open On-Demand at OSC versus traditional SSH, clients log in faster, and they run their first job faster. So fundamentally, the time to science for somebody using your system really is reduced. And it's all about lowering that barrier to entry to make it really more accessible to a broader audience. We need to update this chart because now we're in the second half of the year. We do this twice a year, but as of January or so, this was a little bit of representation of what sites are running Open OnDemand. So we know there's about 200 unique locations based upon RPM logs that have downloaded Open OnDemand and are running it. This is a geolocated based on IP address, but then we also have on our website these slides, which shows you some of the icons of sites that we know that have them production deployed or in process of installing. If you look at those icons, you'll notice there's obviously a lot of academic institutions. There's also national labs, there's federal agencies, there's even various commercial entities, and it's not just US-based, it's also European and elsewhere. I would please encourage you, if you're listening and you are looking at installing or you do a production deployment and your icon, your logo is not on here, please let us know, because at the end of the day, this is what NSF is really grading us by and judging us in the expansion of the community, and being able to talk to them about who's using us is really helpful. I just received a tweet just a few minutes before we started that apparently University of Nebraska now is running OnDemand. So we're constantly scanning Twitter and other sites to look at what who's using us. So if there's one thing that you take away from today, it's this right here, our website, openondemand.org. So everything you need to do and find out about Open OnDemand you can get on our website. That includes a link to our GitHub repo, link to all of our documentation. We use Discourse, which is kind of a mailing online web forum for providing support. While you're always welcome to email me or try to contact me, oftentimes I'll say, hey, can you go post that on Discourse? Because with Discourse, we can build up a repository of knowledge. So your question we can answer, but then other people can go and search for similar topics and questions. This presentation, eventually I'll link to it on the website as well, to try to link to all of our slides and presentations as well. And we do try to do webinars roughly quarterly. This is obviously one of those on there. So I do want to talk just briefly. I don't know, the audience, it's hard to tell whether they're sysadmins or client service type folks or administrators or what. But what is it that really makes Open OnDemand special? And what is our secret sauce behind the scenes? And I'm not going into too gory details here. We have a whole paper that we published a few years ago going into all the details of this. That it is available on our website if you want to understand. But what we really view as the secret sauce is this thing we call per user Nginx. It's up here in the right-hand corner. And what this really means is that once you authenticate into the Open OnDemand environment that's set up, everything that happens within OnDemand is happening on the system as your user ID. So my user ID at OSC is just Alan C. And when I show you the live demo here in a second, everything, the web page, all the apps, everything, they're all actually running as processes on the various nodes as user ID Alan C. So what that means is that we can inherently rely upon all the underlying authentication, security, groups, everything involved with normal user management, user authentication to kind of make sure that we sandbox appropriately. We give people access to things that they should have access to. There's not going to be necessarily security holes as a result of us having some sort of root process running and then restricting people that way. So that's really what's special here. And as a result of that, inevitably somebody asks me, can Open OnDemand do X? And the general rule of thumb answer to that is if an existing user that's knowledgeable, sophisticated, can do X on your system already via, say, Shell or X Windows or something like that, then yeah, OnDemand can do that, because OnDemand is really just putting special scripts and wrappers around what existing users can already do. And that's how we lower the barrier to entry on that. So that's really the gist of this architecture. Runs literally on any modern web browser. There's no plugins required. I've seen pictures of graduate students sitting at a bar with a pint of beer in one hand, their cell phone in another hand, logged into OnDemand. Now, at least here in Ohio, it's not illegal to drink and compute. We don't necessarily condone that, but you can connect to it from really anywhere. And that's back to our whole really making this broadly available and making it so that HPC is something that's accessible. Okay, I'm going to skip now these next few slides because I'm going to go into the real demo of it. These are more in case something kind of blows up on me. But before I do that, I want to talk just briefly about our current project. So we got this NSF award to develop what we call OnDemand 2.0. And I want to emphasize that the 2.0 part of it was just, we weren't really thinking about this, and there's a lot of people who keep asking us, when is 2.0 coming? We got to wait for 2.0. You don't need to wait for 2.0. We're currently at 1.7 is our current release. 1.8 is about to be released in the next probably 2 weeks or so. We are targeting 2.0 potentially for the early November timeframe. We generally do 2 major releases a year. We try to do 1 release before PERC and 1 release before SC. Of course, with all the conferences kind of going virtual and travel restrictions, this year is a little bit different. But there's nothing magical about the 2.0 release. In the 2.0 project, there's kind of 4 areas that we're focusing on, though, and that's just within this kind of next few years. And we call them these catchy phrases: visibility, scalability, accessibility, and engagement. So I'll start at the bottom of that list, engagement. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm talking to you, I'm giving presentations. We have just people on our team who are out there trying to attend conferences and workshops. If you have a suggestion on some place where we should present at that might be some community that could benefit from hearing about this, please let me know. I always say I'm happy to do this to any group. I do it all the time. We have videos of me doing this on the website if you want to look at them. Also happy to get you onto our system and play around with it a little bit. SGCI has been wonderful because as part of some of the resources they provided, there is ability to spin up a kind of a sandbox version of it using the TAC resources. And that is listed on our website as well. So we really just want to engage on that. Accessibility. That's really appealing to more scientists in more fields of science. So we're really putting a lot of energy into trying to not just lower the barrier to entry, but broaden the base of people this would apply to. So we always want to hear about different non-traditional software packages or things like that might, might want to bring into OnDemand or that we might somehow be able to support with that. Different workflows. And I'll show you some of that here in a second, some of the stuff we've already done. Scalability is provide support for more types of computing resources and software. So first way we've gone with that we hadn't even anticipated, most people didn't realize a few years ago, was just the absolute explosion of containers and things like Kubernetes. We have Kubernetes support in this. So for those of you that might be interested in attending PERC or the Gateways Conference, we are going to be doing some tutorials on how to deploy and set up OnDemand. And those tutorials are completely based upon Docker containers. So we're going to have Docker images that you can bring down and just fire it up on your laptop. So we really want to support things like load balancing and different types of authentication, stuff like that. And then the final area is visibility. And the fundamental thing with visibility is integration with something called OpenXDMod. So for those who aren't aware of OpenXDMod, it came out of the Exceed program. MOD is for Metrics on Demand, and it is another NSF-funded program out of the University of Buffalo that basically collects statistics off of your system, off of your scheduler, off of your performance management, things like that. And then it's a front end to make those available in terms of your utilization and just different things that you're doing. So we thought there was a natural tie-in between having OpenXDMod and OpenOnDemand talk to one another. Coming with this next release here, OpenXDMod already supports this. OpenOnDemand will shortly. You'll be able to pull in information from OpenXDMod into your on-demand dashboard. So here's kind of a conceptual prototype of that, where you would log into OnDemand, and on your dashboard, you would see this information from XDMod in terms of the applications that you've run, number of core hours, efficiencies, things like that. We really want to provide some guidance to clients on what their resource utilization is and how it's kind of performing on there. So with that, I'm going to switch over. Let's see, hopefully this worked before. Switch over, and I'm going to show you the live version of OnDemand. So the first thing that I did here is I just went to ondemand.osc.edu. This is running on a virtual machine at OSC. It's not a very beefy one. I want to say it's something like 16 virtual CPUs and, I don't know, something like 30 or 40 gigs of RAM on it. We've got information on our documentation about how to size your install. Most people do install it on a virtual machine. You don't have to. You install it on bare metal if you want. But how to size that so that it, excuse me, so that your anticipated usage will be balanced by the number of people you have logged on to it. The only special thing you can do with that virtual machine is you basically treat it like a login node. So it needs to have access to the same file system, some sort of shared file system, things like that. So what we do here is we actually are connecting to our identity provider. This is usually the most challenging part, and it's usually not that hard, but the most challenging part of any local install is everybody has their own identity providers and things, and we support almost all of them. So, you know, PAM, Duo, Active Directory, LDAP, Bex, you name it, somebody has installed that, but everybody has their own little flavor on that. We here at OSC have both our built-in Active Directory as well as we tie into CI login for federated identity. So I'm going to just log in as myself here. And at this point, everything, oh, sorry about that. That's what happens live demo. Let's go back and do it again. I let it sit there for too long, and it probably will log in now. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so at this point, everything that you're seeing, as a reminder, is running on that system as user Allen C. So this entire web stack, everything is coming forward. Completely customizable and brandable. So this says OSC On Demand. If you were to go to PSC and log into the Bridges On Demand, it'd be green. It would say Bridges On Demand. We have a picture of the Bridges Supercomputer on there. You see we've got messages that we put up in terms of, like, we've got an opening on our team or advertising. We've got messages of the day. So all of that is all completely customizable. I will emphasize as I walk through here, if you go and run out and try to install OpenOnDemand right now, there might be a few things that are slightly different in terms of what I'm showing you versus what's in the current production deployment of OnDemand. And the main reason for that is because we very much believe in the old eat your dog food adage. So we test things out at OSC first. Everything that you see, if there's something that you find that, oh, Alan showed me that, I don't see in the production install, just let us know, because it's all actually in the repos. It's just not in the production repo. So you'd have to pull in an early release RPM or something. But you can get access to pretty much everything that I'm going to show you here. And you see down here, we're running version 1.7.14 here. We haven't switched over to version 1.8 internally yet, but that's happening soon. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is file management. Now, if one of my colleagues were to log in, like Chase, who I know is watching, and he were to show you his screen right now, he would see a different menu here, because this menu is being dynamically created based upon my underlying group membership. So he would have different group membership, he would see different things. But you can see we've got home directories, project directories, scratch directories, all these different groups. I'll just go ahead and click onto home directory here. Excuse me. And it's going to pull up in the browser a file browser showing the remote file system. So this is my home directory in the remote file system. And you can see you can do all the stuff that you'd want to do with files in terms of moving them, downloading them, copying them, making new directories, uploading. In terms of the download and the upload options, our guidance at OSC and in general is that you encourage your clients to use OnDemand up to about 8 to 10 gigabyte file size. And that's as opposed to traditionally you'd want to have somebody use something like an SCP, SFTP utility or FileZilla or something like that. We found that because of the way the web technology works, it's actually anywhere from 2 to 5 times faster transfer speeds for large files than over just those normal data mover technologies. Once you get above that, about 8 to 10 gig size, you start to hit into some limitations on the virtual machines and space and things like that. And while you can tweak that, that's the point where really you probably should be going to something like Globus Online or something like that. And we'll be having some Globus Online conversations here in a second about some of the future developments in OnDemand. I'm going to show you here real quick. Scroll down. I'm just going to find I'll do a Python file right here. Oh, there we go. Let's do that one right there. So one of the cool things that we have here in OnDemand is not just the ability to move files around, but also to edit them. So if I click on this, it's going to open a lightweight file editor IDE that, as you can see here, is a syntactically aware and knows about Python. So it's highlighting the appropriate keywords. If I were to make changes here, I didn't have to download this file. I'm editing it, and it's going to save it into that directory. So there's no need to transfer the file locally, move it back and forth, like a lot of people sometimes have to do. So that's one of the really powerful features is you can, in the browser, edit all these different files, and it knows about stuff. Okay, so that's the gist of and I can click through here. You can also, by the way, deep link in. So if you notice here, this is my directory structure. On the remote system, I'm in users, Apple, Allen C. But up here, I'm also at users, Apple, Allen C. So you can actually provide deep link URLs as appropriate on there. Okay, so that's the file browser. What I'm going to go through now is kind of conceptually 3 different ways that we view of people using a supercomputer or a cluster. So the first way is the traditional just shell terminal way. So here under clusters, I'm going to click on that. We have 3 clusters at OSC. They're all separate clusters. They do share a common home directory file system. We have Owens, Pitzer, and Ruby. And if I click on Owens right here, it's going to just drop me right in to the Owens login node. So if I say host name, it's going to say I'm on login 4. Who am I? I'm Allen C. We have a surprising number of our clients who come straight into OnDemand and just go into the terminal, and that's it. And they do everything from their terminal. They just want to do terminal stuff, but you can there's still functionality here, obviously. You can see there's color coding. It's pretty smart. Very, very nice things that you can do with the terminal. We are coming soon. There's going to be basically terminal reconnect sessions. We don't have that right now, but basically the equivalent of using something like Screen to disconnect from a terminal, but leave it still running in the background and then reconnect into that. So if you want to do shell stuff, have at it. There you go. There's the shell. We also have available under here our system status app. So here at OSC, we let our clients jump between clusters, and they sometimes want to decide, well, hey, based on load or resources, what clusters are available. So we just recently switched over from our metric system was Ganglia to Prometheus and Grafana. But you can use either of those. So what you're seeing here is just some front-end stuff saying, okay, how many nodes are available, how many GPU nodes are available, how many jobs are in the queue. But if I click into that, you'll notice it's going to go to our Grafana install, and you can get into more details on there. So that's just one of those things that's helpful for clients to be able to see. I should mention, by the way, all of these things are all customizable. So if you want to run an install and you don't have any type of visibility, that's fine. It's easy. This is something you don't install this particular feature. You just don't make that available. Okay, so that's that. Now let's go into what we call our jobs composer. This is going to be undergoing in the next few months some pretty radical changes. Excuse me. But the idea here is that people want to run batch jobs, and they just need to kind of edit the scripts and then submit them. And they don't necessarily need to log into a shell to do that. So what you're seeing here, I give a lot of different demos. Each of these rows on the left is a different job that I have started to create. And if you notice, as I click through these, the information on the right-hand side changes, showing me those details on that. I'm going to go ahead and make a new job, and I'm going to make a new job from a template. We have at OSC set up templates for all of our major software packages so that clients can come in, and I'll just click into here, and I'll just do, for example, a Python serial job here. So you can create those so somebody can, these are all hello world type things. So on the right-hand side, it says, hey, I want to create a new Python serial job on Pitzer. Yep, it's on Pitzer. This is the script. It's showing me some details about what's going to be in there. I'll hit create new job. And there, here at the top, we now have a Python serial job. I can go and I can edit those files just like we did before. So this is the actual Python file, and you can see it's just a hello world type thing. If I wanted to, I can look at the script. If I want to, I could actually drop straight into that directory, and I can see those files via command line here. So there's those files right there. I can, just kind of link to it. I can open the script file. But for most people, all they want to do is they just want to hit run. So you would just submit it, and it would submit it to the scheduler. When it's done, and so instead of saying not submitted, it would say submitted. When it's done, it would come back and probably say something like completed here. And so let me go to this example I have here. Here's a job that was completed. It's just a hello world job. Now I've got the output in it. And you see we've got all kinds of pre and epilogue stuff. If I scroll through all the logs, so there's the hello world in Python on there. It only took 1 second to run, of course. So that is how to kind of create different jobs and edit them and different options. Also under this menu option, we have what we call our active job app. And this is basically the equivalent of like QStat, that you're browsing the queue. I should mention that we do support all major pretty much all the schedulers out there, resource managers. So we refer to these as adapters. So Slurm, PBS, LSF, SGE. Kubernetes is an adapter for us. We also have something that we just released as part of 1.7 called our Linux host adapter. And the idea behind that is that you don't have a scheduler. You just want to run it on the local node or another node that you can just SSH into. So a lot of different capabilities there. What I'm browsing right now is all jobs and all clusters. I'm just going to pick this first one here. It's not me, but it's some user has a parallel job on Ruby, gives me a little bit of information about it. They're using 20 nodes. And if I scroll down, take a second here, it's going to show me for each node, again, it's trying to pull in a lot of information here. It's going to show me Grafana charts. See if that's what I get for picking out one that's got 20, because it's got to load 20 different ones of these. Let me close this and pick one that isn't 20. Danger of oh, it's not happy with me at all. Let's close out and active jobs. Yeah, trying to load all of that stuff. Let's open up this one, see how many it's got. Oh, 40 nodes on that one as well. Not a good. I'm picking all the wrong ones that have lots and lots of information. It's trying to pass out. Let's pick a there. This is a serial job. There'll be only one node. Okay. So here we go. So there, it's showing me the kind of information of what's happening on that node in terms of memory and usage. So this particular job used 100% of the requested CPU and then dropped off to nothing, and basically has nothing. So it doesn't seem like it's doing very much. Same thing with this memory usage. So this is another way of helping clients see what their jobs are doing performance-wise on there. Okay, so that was the jobs, and then I always save the best for last, and this is our interactive apps. So we have different types of interactive apps. The first one I'm going to show you here is just a virtual desktop. So this is just going to be a shared desktop environment. We can pick different things, XFCE, Mate. I'm just going to ask for an hour. I'm going to hit launch. Now what it's doing behind the scenes is it's submitting a batch job to a special queue on our systems. And you can see here that it's telling me that, okay, this is batch job 33056. And if you notice there, it refreshed itself and it started very quickly. It's now running. And before we get into that, I'm going to also queue up a MATLAB job. I'll just ask for, we'll just pick the default version. Well, here, we'll do a newer version. 1 hour, 1 core. Here I've got different node types. So you see I'm getting more options in this one. And this is all customizable by the system administrator as to what options you might want to provide available. So I'll do any node and just hit launch for that. And then I will also at the same time ask for a Jupyter session and I'll hit launch. So you see these are stacking up here in that I've got that Owen's desktop job running, and I've got this MATLAB and Jupyter job that are queued up that it's waiting for the start. So while we wait for those to start, let's go ahead and you see that this Owen's job is running on node 0808 on Owen's. And I've got these little dials down here. I'm going to leave the default settings to start with and show you what they mean here in a second. So I'm going to click on Launch Owen's VDI. Now, the magic here is that, again, no plugins, nothing special is happening. It's just in the browser right now. And I have a remote desktop that I am connected to on one of the nodes on Owen's. So if I type hosting, there we go. I'm on node 808. I can drag things around, could do whatever I want here. Now this is the part where it's kind of hard to see over a webinar, but there's a little bit of some pixelation on there. It's, not really any latency, but a lot of pixelation. So I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to change the compression to high and the image quality to low. And this is a situation where, let's say you had a really bad Wi-Fi connection or something. You say, we don't want to use a lot of bandwidth. So if I hit launch Owen's VDI again, I'm going to go right back where I was. That session never went away. But now there's a lot more, and again, it's kind of hard to see, there's a lot more pixelation on there. But this is also way more responsive as a result of that. Now, let's say I have some sort of problem. I call up the help desk and say, oh, something's not working right. Well, our help desk can say, okay, go in here and give me the view-only shareable link. And the help desk can log into their account, just any other account system, and see the same thing that I'm seeing, because they're actually connecting to the same session via that view-only show the link. It's immensely helpful in terms of troubleshooting kind of what's going on. Now, let's say that was kind of the desktop. If we look at MATLAB here, we don't want to run a full desktop. We just want to be in MATLAB. So what this has done is instead of launching a full Mate or XFCE desktop, it's launching MATLAB. And as a reminder, I'm on a shared node here, no GPUs, anything like that. I'm doing this remotely, my home Wi-Fi, broadcasting this out to all of you. And I just want to show you here, where is it? Come on. I'm on the wrong one. There we go. That I'm doing 3D graphic rendering with basically no latency at all on this. So really good performance in terms of the VNC. Now, if I go into here and I close out of MATLAB, because that's all that I ran, it's going to take a second. It's not going to drop me into a desktop. It's just going to kill the session. So it's disconnected on there. And now if I come back here, you'll see this is going to disappear because I basically terminated that job. So if we give it a second, it should go away. There it goes. It went away because I terminated the job, not running anymore. Now, the final type of interactive app is something like Jupyter. So there's many software packages out there that provide their own web front end. So if you notice, I don't have any of the dials on this one because we're not running any type of web front end. I just have this button that says Connect to Jupyter. And what it's doing here is it is launching a full Jupyter Lab instance as user Alan C that I'm then connecting to. And I can do everything I'd want to do in Jupyter there. Traditionally, when you want to run Jupyter, you have to kind of fire it up and it has to manage users, things like that. No, in this case, it's just me. It's on there. So it makes it much easier to deploy Jupyter. Last year at PERC, there was a Jupyter BOSS user group, and halfway through, the moderator stopped and said, okay, how many of you in the room are running Open OnDemand for the purpose of providing access to Jupyter? And more than half the room said they were. Okay, so that's the different apps. I want to show you real quick the other ways this can look like. So at OSC, we have a commercial program called Awesome. That's just our brand for our commercial clients. And so if I go here to, I went to awesome.org. Actually, I might do this again because it's going to time out. And I connect in here. We're running a completely separate on-demand instance here that you see it looks kind of the same, so awesome, things like that. But now on the dashboard, we have different like icons. And what these are different things that some of our clients and customers have developed. So there's an app development mode of this that people can create their own apps and then share them with others. So again, if Chase were to log in, he would see different things on his dashboard than I would. But you know, I just have been, they've shared with me a whole bunch of these different apps on here. Now, all the other stuff at the top is still kind of the same. I'm going into this well predictor app because I want to show how sophisticated some of these workflows can be. And this is the kind of thing that you can have just absolutely incredibly sophisticated workflows. And of course, it's slow. Let me try closing out of that and launching it one more time. You know, the dangers of a live demo. I'll tell you what, we'll let that sit for a second, and then I want to show a third example. So one of the things that we have also at OSC is we provide special classroom accounts. So we've deployed another version of OnDemand that is just, I'm going to have to refresh this. It's just stat.osc.edu that is for some statistics classes. And again, there we go. So this is for these 3 statistics classes. You see here on the dashboard, we have links to their textbooks. Now, as a user or student of one of these statistics classes, all the faculty want them to be able to do is just access RStudio. So if I go here to interactive apps, all I have is RStudio. There's nothing else. And in fact, when I click on RStudio here, I only have the option of saying how many hours and what project. If I go back over to here to our main version of this and click on RStudio, you'll see that I can pick different versions and different nodes, things like that. So we've simply deployed another version of this that's limited for the students, for their resources. Same thing with clusters. We're only giving them access, show access to Owens. So you can really customize this and make it so that people can only see certain things and different classes of users can see certain stuff. Okay, I'll click back over here to Weld Predictor because this is this workflow app that was developed by EWI. I just want to show you how sophisticated these things can be. So I'm going to start a new simulation. I am not a welding engineer, but the people who developed this are welding engineers. And what this fundamentally is going to do, it's going to walk me through and ask me about this weld that I want to create. So, okay, I'll pick a default here. It's just going to be whatever this welding technique is. Dimensions, I can do a pipe, I can do a T-plate. We'll just leave it as T-plate. Okay, geometry, fine. I can change the geometry to different things. I'll just leave it as a T-bevel. Okay, here's the actual weld. I want to actually create beads, and you can see here I'm dragging around and just doing different stuff. This is creating what the welding bead would be on that. Pick material, procedure, fixture, same type of thing, hit save. I would hit save and I'd submit this. And then behind the scenes, it would take all those parameters I've put in, it would mesh them, generate the mesh, submit that to Abacus, simulate it, take the results from Abacus, and then package them together into this nice little PDF report. So this is showing kind of the output of all the inputs that you had, and then you scroll through, there's the weld bead, and here's then actually kind of the welding thermal distribution stuff that Abacus calculated out. So that just shows a little bit of how sophisticated this whole thing can be. Okay, I have talked an awful lot, so I just want to go real quick to my last few slides. Those are all the apps, and I want to leave this on the kind of coming soon or recently added. So we generally look at our development platform or a path as system level stuff and app level stuff. And so what you're seeing here are 1.7 is the version we just released, and 1.8 will be coming out in the next few weeks, and then 2.0 probably in early November. And then the ones that say OSC, those are ones that we have deployed at OSC, but they require more customization than you. It's hard for us to just say, okay, let's put these in the default install. So if you're interested in those, you can get them. It just requires a little more customization. So I want to be a little bit sensitive to time. Oh yeah, my last slide is just the Open OnDemand. And I see Mona asked a question about the classroom setting with multiple students. How does it handle each user's data? It's the same way it handles each client's data. So each student needs to have their own account on the system. When they log on to the system, they have their own home directory, completely isolated from everybody else's home directory. So that's really all it does. It's the same way you would handle it if you gave everybody in the class a account on your system is what it really comes down to on there. So, okay, I don't know that. Hopefully that hopefully I answered that. Thank you. Yes, good. I answered that. Good. Okay. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. I assume that's where they would all appear. As opposed to in a chat or something. So again, we're at about 1:45 my time. Happy to talk about any of these items on the coming soon or explain them all, but I wanted to make sure I leave some time for questions or things that I went over too fast or suggestions on here. So anything else, anybody else? Oh, thank you, Sean. Oh, you know what, Sean? Sean, for those of you that can't see, Sean said, OnDemand was the best decision we have made at Tufts for our HPC user community. Highly recommended. I should mention that one of the things that we have is an advisory board to help steer the development of OnDemand. Sean is part of that advisory board, and you know, if this is something that you would like to be more engaged with, involved, we're always happy to have that type of involvement and engagement on it. So appreciate that, Sean. Any other comments or things that I haven't covered or I went over too fast on here? I know it was a lot. And I mean, there's 33 of you, so hopefully you're not all waiting for everybody else. So if there's a question you have, now's the time.
I think we just received.
Yeah, I got him. I'm watching him. Okay, so let's see. First off, will there be disconnected GUI apps similar to what you are doing with the Shell app? I'm not sure I fully understand what you're asking there. If you mean by disconnected popping up in other tabs, they already do. So for example, Jupyter that I showed you was in a completely separate tab. So I'm not, Sean, was that from you? It looks like that might have been from you. I don't know if that's, okay, hold on, Sean. Let me see if I can make it so that you can talk instead of me having to let you type. Here you go. You should be able to talk now, maybe. Sean, you're on mute, though. There you go. Nope, you muted yourself again. There you go. Now you're unmuted. There you go, Sean.
It sounds like it's working now, yeah. So yeah, with the Shell app, you've been recently working on the feature to, you know, be able to get disconnected from the web-based terminal and then, you know, log back into OnDemand. And I think you said that the Shell app will continue to be logged in with the terminal session, correct?
Got it, yes.
Right. And so,
okay,
yeah,
so I understand your question.
We have, yeah, a lot of users asking that for R and things too.
Okay, so I think it comes down to how you disconnect from it. So when I just gave you the MATLAB demo, I actually hit the X within the session and closed MATLAB. If I would have just closed the tab, I could reconnect to that. And I think the same thing is true for like Jupyter and R Studio, stuff like that, that it's as long as you're not closing it within the actual application itself, because you're terminating that application, you can just close the tab and come back and reconnect to that.
You know, if I can log out or cancel my browser and, you know, come back the next day if, for example, someone wants a longer running MATLAB session?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
All of that does work, because again, what's happening behind the scenes is it's just looking at the resource manager and the scheduler. So as long as you still have wall time left on your request, it's going to be there even if you disconnect from OnDemand and come back in. Now, I think there's certain sites that run some sort of kind of Reaper programs where if you've got a scheduler session that absolutely nothing's happening, it might go kill it early. But that's based on your site configuration. It has nothing to do with OnDemand at all.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, that answers my question. Thanks a lot.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Sean. Okay, I've got another question of, So for a gateway use case, typically there are multiple users that do not have an account on the system. So this isn't appropriate for that use case, right? Correct. Yes. I mean, again, fundamentally, that's kind of behind the scenes, under the cover, so to speak, what's happening. We're relying upon the underlying system authentication. So I guess there's technically some ways that you could configure your underlying system authentication to allow like a guest user in, but I think that would be a big mistake. You know, we really need to have some sort of access granted to people. Now that said, you know, we've had requests in certain situations for things that authenticate against other stuff. So I showed you this federated ID. I guess conceptually you could, you know, authenticate against like a Gmail account or something like that. So, you know, whatever the authentication of your underlying system is able to do, it's going to want to do that. But yeah, the bottom line is you need to have some sort of individual kind of user something on your system, as opposed to just a kind of anonymous, anybody can get into the gateway type thing. Okay, OnDemand has been integrated with lots of services. Is it possible to customize services which users want? I'm guessing what you, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you speak permission. So you should be able to unmute yourself right now, Chuhan. And I don't know that I fully understand. When you talk about services, are you talking about all the different apps, or what do you mean by that?
What I mean, you know, I think, you know, some user like, I just only need like a file browser service, something like, you know, I don't need like a job,
Right.
you know, management service, something like that,
Yep.
you know, like I don't need like a MATLAB, VNC, or like I don't need a, you know, RStudio, something like that. So OnDemand can, you know, customize something, this kind of tools, and then, you know, services.
So let me show you that absolutely. So let me show you. I didn't show you. We have a fourth on-demand instance at OSC that we actually run for a commercial company called TotalSim. I'm going to log into that one right now. Maybe. Come on. There we go. And if you notice here, I've logged into just apps.totalsim.us. I have nothing.
Okay.
And the reason I have nothing is because they haven't given me any type of permission. They haven't given me the group permissions that I would need to see something. So everything in that top menu is completely controllable based upon your secondary group permissions.
Okay.
And I think that's what you're looking at, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Alan. Yeah.
Sure, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, any other, did I miss any? I think I got all of them. Just want to make sure there's no other that we've missed. Okay. Well, we're almost at the top of the hour, so I really appreciate everybody's attendance. And again, do not hesitate to reach out to me or to reach out in Discourse if you have questions. Happy to give people demo accounts on our system to poke around a little bit and see what it looks like. Again, NSF is funding us to expand this community. And you know, if you need help getting this kind of configured and installed on your own system, we're here for you. This is what we're being paid to do. So please engage with us. Absolutely. And with that, I think we're done, Claire.
Okay, perfect. Thank you again, Alan. This is fantastic. I really hope that everyone on the call will have a second to complete that quick survey that I threw a link in for you. That just helps us provide you guys with more opportunities to hear from folks like Alan. This is part 5 out of 6 for the different Gateway Platform series that we've been running the last couple of months. The next webinar will be August 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. We'll be listening to Mark Miller, Principal Investigator at San Diego Supercomputer Center, on Cypress as a workbench framework for creating science gateways. So hope that we can see you guys back here in a month. And again, thank you, Alan, for this great opportunity. I've learned a lot today and looking forward to hearing more from you at Gateways 20 and PERC 20. Well, thank you, everyone.